6 months ago, I left the Elder Scrolls Online. Now I'm ready to talk about why I left the game that I once called home. I left ESO not because I hated the game, but because I loved it too much to watch it die. The sad death that's slowly becoming of it, and why it reminds me of another game that broke my heart for the very same reasons. How Destiny ties into the woes of ESO is actually quite chilling and poetic. Destiny has a long-standing reputation of having the potential of being a great game with an industry-changing story, ruined by greed and mismanagement by the developers. The cracks started to show themselves during the release of The Taken King. The story had come to a climax, and the skeletons were creeping out of the closet. It always felt like there was something holding Destiny back, and we started finding out what those things were.
Why were you fired? Why wasn't it just, okay, let's have a meeting and you realize that you're on opposite sides of the shore? Why wasn't it more amicable?
Today I wanted to talk a little bit about a recent bombshell Kotaku article that finally gives us a behind-the-scenes picture of what went wrong with Destiny. The author interviewed with roughly a dozen Bungie employees, all speaking anonymously.
And let's not forget the infamous words from Luke Smith to throw money at the screen after some players were locked out of their content that they purchased simply because they did not own all of the expansion prior to the release of The Taken King, with many of the fears that the community had for Destiny, along with the growing disconnect between the devs and the players, had left a very bad taste in many people's mouths. Not long after the release of Destiny 2, Bungie had realized the mistakes that they had made and went through great efforts to reconnect with their fan base and to make Destiny into a game that people could truly believe in. And these efforts were well paid off because it ended up earning Destiny 2 a Community of the Year award during the Game Awards. And why does this matter for ESO?
And as expected, the content creator community wasn't happy with these changes. And it wasn't just PvP, it was PvE as well.
So for those of you that don't know what's going on, Update 35 was probably the most criticism I've seen this community give ZOS for a patch in the time that I've played the game. And I think it was rightfully so.
Didn't we just nerf the healing? Hey guys, Dragon Knight is meant to struggle with sustain. Yep. And we're gonna nerf the healing for Burning Embers from 100% to 50%. Never mind, I changed my mind. Yep. Have fun.
What many were looking forward to in the year 2022 was a new class, a new skill line, or something that accentuated our current builds and made them more interesting.
So what exactly broke ESO? Was it Update 35? Or is it death by 1,000 cuts from the servers having constant performance issues? Too many big combat changes every 3 months. The burnout in the ESO community was coming to a boiling point, and the simmer truly began with the Greymore expansion. The heart of storytelling began to flatline with Greymore and became even more noticeable in Blackwood. And finally, with the release of High Isle, it became clear that putting out a compelling story to keep players attached to what's happening in the world of ESO was no longer a priority. In-game rewards and end-game rewards slowly all but vanished. And while all of this was happening, a noticeable increase of items being offered in the cash shop became much more prevalent. People were starting to wonder, why was in-game content being diluted while the cash shop was being bloated? So many things being offered in the Crown Store were things that could have easily had been in-game unlocks, either by completing milestones or unlocking certain achievements. Things that actually rewards players for the time that they spent in the game. This crucial feeling of connection and being rewarded for the time spent had felt like it had become neglected by the developer. Concerns were raised, questions were asked, but instead of getting an answer, developers decided to continue onto the path that they were currently on. This path had led up to the release of Update 35, and the outcry was enormous. The response from the developers was even more outrageous. And at this point, many people stopped believing and trusting in the company that made a game that they loved to play so much. Many with thousands of hours and years of gameplay under their belts, and decided it was time to leave ESO. And the great exodus happened. Active player counts came to an all-time low, and many became worried about the state and the future of the Elder Scrolls Online. And then a glimmer of hope that came from the developers after many months of poorly explained, sometimes just leaving gaps for people to interpret on what exactly is happening. Now we have a clear path forward, and many of the concerns are being addressed. But is this enough to rebuild the trust that was lost between the community and the developers? Is this change going forward going to save ESO from total economic collapse? Let's hope that this is a step in the right direction, and that these steps are taken very carefully. Because if there's one thing that we have learned from today, you can make the worst mistakes and still find a way to make things right, even if it means taking things one step at a time. This is the fight for the life of the Elder Scrolls Online.